The morning sky over Los Angeles turned dark with alien ships. Jake Morrison had been cleaning his rifle when the first explosions shook the Marine base. He ran outside and saw massive black vessels floating above the city like storm clouds. Other Marines stood around him, all staring up at the impossible sight. "What the hell are those things?" Someone shouted. Jake did not answer. He was already thinking about his weapon. The Barrett rifle in his hands was designed to kill targets from very far away. He had been a sniper for 8 years. He knew how to wait, how to watch, and how to make one shot count. The alien ships began dropping smaller craft. These dropships landed in the streets and parks of Los Angeles. Heavy doors opened with a hiss of steam. Out came soldiers in dark armor that seemed to shimmer with energy. They carried weapons that glowed with blue light. Lisa Grant ran up to Jake. She was his spotter, the person who helped him find targets and calculate distances. "Morrison, we need to move. The base is being evacuated." Jake nodded, but kept watching the aliens. They moved in tight groups, maybe 20 or 30 soldiers together. They walked down the middle of streets like they owned the place. Their armor had some kind of shield that made the air around them ripple like water. "They think they are safe," Jake said quietly. "What do you mean?" "Look how they move. All bunched up, no cover. They think nothing can hurt them." "Far above the earth, General." Kriegstahl stood on the bridge of his command ship. He was tall and thin, with gray skin and forearms. His species had conquered 12 worlds in the past 50 years. Earth would be number 13. His intelligence officer brought him a data pad. "General, we have analyzed human military capabilities. Their weapons are mostly chemical projectiles and explosive devices. Very primitive." Kriegstahl looked at the data with interest. "What about their long-range weapons?" "They have something called snipers. Soldiers who use single-shot projectile weapons from great distances. Our analysis shows these weapons cannot penetrate our personal shields. They are no threat to our forces." "Good. Order the assault teams to advance in standard formation. This planet will fall within days." The intelligence officer saluted and left. Kriegstahl returned to watching the invasion on his screens. His forces were landing in major cities across the planet. Soon, the humans would surrender. Back on Earth, Jake and Lisa loaded their gear into a truck. Other Marines were leaving the base in a hurry. Everyone knew the aliens were coming. The radio crackled with reports from around the world. London was under attack. Tokyo was burning. New York had gone silent. "Where are we going?" Lisa asked. Jake pointed toward the mountains east of the city. "High ground. We need to see what we are dealing with." They drove through empty streets. Most people had fled when the ships appeared. The few remaining cars were heading away from the city. Jake took them in the opposite direction, toward the fighting. They reached the Hollywood Hills just as the first battle began. From their position on a ridge, they could see the aliens advancing through downtown Los Angeles. Human soldiers tried to stop them, but their bullets seemed to bounce off the alien shields. The glowing weapons cut through buildings like paper. "Jesus," Lisa whispered. "Our guys do not stand a chance." Jake set up his rifle and looked through the scope. The aliens were 800 yards away, moving in perfect formation. Their shields made them look like they were walking underwater. But Jake noticed something important. "Lisa, look at their feet." She raised her binoculars. "What about them?" "They shields do not go all the way to the ground. And look at their helmets. The face shields are separate from the main armor." Lisa understood. "You think you can get through?" "Only one way to find out." Jake chambered around. The Barrett used 50 caliber bullets, each one as long as his finger. These rounds were designed to stop vehicles and punch through armor. If the alien shields could not stop them, one hit would be enough. He picked his target carefully. An alien officer stood at the front of the formation. The creature was giving orders to the others, waving his arms and pointing. Jake could see the face clearly through the helmet visor. Range? Jake asked. Lisa checked her equipment. 840 yards. Wind is light, coming from the west. Jake adjusted his scope. He had made shots like this hundreds of times in training. But this was different. This was not practice. This was war. He controlled his breathing and squeezed the trigger slowly. The rifle kicked hard against his shoulder. The sound echoed off the hills like thunder. Through the scope, Jake saw the alien officer's head snap back. The creature fell to the ground and did not move. The other aliens stopped walking. They looked around in confusion. Some knelt beside their fallen leader. Holy shit, Lisa breathed. You got him. Jake was already working the bolt, loading another. Round, get me another target. There, the one with a different helmet. Looks like another officer. Jake aimed and fired again. Another alien fell. Then another. Each shot caused more confusion in the alien ranks. They began to spread out, looking for the source of the attack. But they were looking in the wrong direction. After the fifth shot, the aliens retreated. They carried their dead and wounded back toward their landing zone. Jake and Lisa watched them go. They were not expecting this, Lisa said. No, they thought their shields made them invincible. Jake started packing his rifle. They needed to move before the aliens sent search parties. But first, he called his commanding officer on the radio. Sir, this is Morrison. I need to report something important. Go ahead, Morrison. The alien. Shields do not stop bullets. Repeat, kinetic projectiles can penetrate their defenses. We can hurt them. There was a long pause. Are you certain? I just killed 5 of them from 800 yards. They had no idea where the shots came from. Understood. We will pass this information up the chain. Good work, Morrison. Jake turned off the radio. Lisa was looking at him with a strange expression. What? He asked. You just changed this whole war. Jake picked up his rifle and started walking toward their truck. Maybe, but we have a lot more work to do. As they drove to their next position, neither of them noticed the alien reconnaissance drone that had been watching from high above. It had recorded everything and was already transmitting the data back to General Kriegstahl's ship. General Kriegstahl stared at the data on his screen. The report made no sense. 5 of his officers had died in the space of 3 minutes. The humans had used some kind of invisible weapon. His sensors had detected no energy signatures, no missile. Launches, nothing. How is this possible? He demanded. His intelligence officer looked nervous. Sir, we believe the humans used projectile weapons from a great distance. Our shields are designed to stop energy weapons, not solid objects moving at high velocity. Kriegstahl's 4 arms moved in anger. You told me their projectile weapons were harmless. We miscalculated, sir. The humans have weapons that fire very large projectiles with extreme accuracy. They can kill from distances our forces cannot even see. Find them and destroy them. Sir, we do not know where they are. The shots came from somewhere in the mountains, but our patrols found nothing. Kriegstahl turned back to his screens. Invasion was supposed to be simple. His forces would land, the humans would surrender, and Earth would become another conquered world. Instead, invisible enemies were killing his officers, and his troops were afraid to leave their landing zones. 300 miles away in Texas, Carlos Rivera heard about the Los Angeles attack on his radio. He was a retired Army sniper who had served in 3 wars. Now he lived on a ranch in the hill country, far from any city. But when the aliens came, he knew his skills would be needed again. Carlos loaded his truck with ammunition and supplies. His rifle was a custom-built weapon that could hit targets at over 1,500 yards. He had spent years perfecting his shooting, and he knew every hill and valley in his area. He drove to a ridge overlooking Highway 35. The aliens had landed near San Antonio and were moving north. Carlos had received reports that they traveled in convoys, using the main roads. He would be waiting for them. The first convoy appeared just after noon. 6 alien vehicles moved down the highway in single file. They looked like tanks, but floated a few feet above the ground. Each one carried a squad of alien soldiers. Carlos set up his rifle behind a cluster of rocks. The vehicles were 1,200 yards away, moving at a steady pace. He could see alien officers standing in the open, hatches probably feeling safe behind their shields. He aimed at the lead vehicle. The officer was tall and wore different armor than the others. Carlos breathed slowly and squeezed the trigger. The .50 caliber bullet crossed the distance in less than 2 seconds. It hit the alien officer in the chest and threw him backward into his vehicle. The convoy stopped immediately. Aliens poured out of the vehicles, looking for the source of the attack. Carlos was already aiming at his next target. Another officer fell, then another. The aliens began firing their energy weapons at the hills, but they were shooting at shadows. Carlos killed 7 aliens before the convoy retreated. He packed his gear and moved to a new position. The aliens would send search parties, but he would be long gone by then. In Montana, Amy Watson was setting up her own ambush. She was a former police sniper who had joined the National Guard after the invasion began. Her area of operations was the mountain passes leading to the Canadian border. The aliens were trying to cut off escape routes, but they had to use the mountain roads. Amy chose a position overlooking a narrow canyon. Any alien force trying to pass through would have to move in single file. She had a clear view for over a mile in both directions. Her rifle was a Remington 700, modified for long-range shooting. She had won several competitions with this weapon and could hit a target the size of a dinner plate at 800 yards. The alien officers were much bigger than dinner plates. The alien patrol came through the canyon just before sunset. 20 soldiers moved on foot, checking the road for obstacles. Amy could see their commander walking in the center of the group. He was giving orders through some kind of communication device. Amy aimed carefully. The range was 600 yards, and there was a slight crosswind. She adjusted her scope and controlled her breathing. The shot was perfect. The alien commander dropped without making a sound. The other aliens looked around in confusion. They had heard the gunshot echo through the canyon, but they could not tell where it came from. Amy was already loading another round. She picked off 2 more aliens before they realized they were under attack. The surviving aliens took cover behind rocks and tried to return fire. Their energy weapons lit up the canyon walls, but Amy was hidden in a cave opening high above them. She continued shooting, picking her targets carefully. Each shot eliminated another alien. After 10 minutes, only 3 aliens remained alive. They abandoned their position and ran back the way they had come. Amy watched them go through her scope. She could have killed them all, but she wanted them to carry a message back to their commanders. Back on the command ship, General Kriegstall received more bad news. 3 separate patrols had been attacked by invisible enemies. His casualties were mounting, and his officers were beginning to refuse dangerous assignments. "Sir," his intelligence officer reported, "we have identified the problem. The humans have soldiers called snipers. They use high-powered rifles to kill from extreme distances. Our shields cannot stop their bullets. How many of these snipers do they have?" "Unknown, sir. But they appear to be operating across the entire continent. We have reports of attacks in Texas, Montana, California, and 6 other states." Kriegstall studied the map on his screen. Red dots marked the locations of sniper attacks. There were two. Many to count. What do you recommend? We need to change our tactics, sir. No more small patrols. No more exposed officers. We should move only at night and in large formations. That will slow our advance to a crawl. Yes, sir? But if we continue losing officers at this rate, we will have no one left to lead the troops. Krickstall was quiet for a long moment. In all his years of conquest, he had never faced an enemy like this. The humans were using patience and precision instead of brute force. They struck from the shadows and disappeared before his forces could respond. Order all ground commanders to implement new security protocols immediately. No officer is to expose himself unnecessarily. All movements will be conducted under cover of darkness. Yes, sir? As his intelligence officer left, Krickstall returned to watching the invasion reports. The red dots on his map were multiplying. Somewhere down on the planet's surface, human snipers were hunting his army. And so far, they were winning. Jake Morrison received the radio message while he was setting up for another ambush. Sniper teams across the country were reporting successful attacks. The aliens were changing their tactics, moving at night and staying in large groups. Looks like we got their attention, Lisa said. Jake smiled grimly. Good. Now the real work begins. The word spread quickly through underground networks and military channels. Retired soldiers, police marksmen, and competitive shooters all heard the same message. The aliens could be killed, and snipers were the key to victory. Within 2 weeks of the first attacks, hundreds of skilled shooters had joined the fight. Jake Morrison moved through the ruins of downtown Los Angeles like a ghost. He had spent 3 days studying the alien patrol patterns from his hideout in a damaged office building. The aliens had changed their tactics after losing so many officers. They now moved in groups of 50 or more, but this made them easier to track. Lisa Grant watched through binoculars as an alien supply convoy approached their position. 20 vehicles, maybe 300 soldiers. They are keeping their officers in the middle of the formation. Jake nodded. The aliens were learning, but not fast enough. He had identified their new weakness. The larger groups needed more coordination, which meant more radio traffic. And the soldiers operating the communication equipment were easy to spot. See the one with the big antenna on his back? Jake whispered. Lisa found the target through her binoculars. Got him. Range is 900 yards. Jake adjusted his scope. The alien communication officer was walking beside one of the vehicles, completely unaware that death was watching him from a broken window 15 floors above. The shot was clean. The alien fell forward, his radio equipment sparking and smoking. Within minutes, the entire convoy was in chaos. Without their communication officer, the aliens could not coordinate their movements. Some vehicles stopped, others kept moving. Jake picked off 2 more communication specialists before the convoy split apart in confusion. They are learning to fear us, Lisa said. Jake was already packing his rifle. Good. Fear makes people make mistakes. 2,000 miles away in Texas, Carlos Rivera was teaching the same lesson to a different group of aliens. He had recruited 5 other shooters from his area, all former military or experienced hunters. They worked as a team, hitting alien patrols from multiple directions. Carlos lay on a hillside overlooking Interstate 10. The aliens had been using the highway to move supplies between their bases. His team was spread out across 3 hills, each man covering a different section of road. The alien convoy appeared at dawn, moving slowly in the early light. Carlos counted 30 vehicles and at least 400 soldiers. But he also saw something new. The aliens had put their officers inside armored vehicles instead of letting them walk in the open. Smart, Carlos muttered, but not smart enough. He radioed his team. Target the vehicle commanders. Look for the ones giving orders. The attack began when the convoy reached the center of the killing zone. 6 rifles fired almost simultaneously. 6 alien vehicle commanders died in their seats. The convoy stopped immediately as lower-ranking aliens tried to figure out what to do. Carlos and his team kept shooting. Every time an alien tried to take command, he became a target. Some aliens abandoned their vehicles and ran for cover. Others fired their energy weapons wildly at the hills, hitting nothing but rocks and trees. After 20 minutes of shooting, the surviving aliens retreated. They left behind 12 vehicles and dozens of bodies. Carlos had lost count of how many aliens his team had killed. "This is working," said Pete Johnson, one of Carlos's team members. "They do not know how to fight us." Carlos nodded. The aliens were used to fighting enemies who met them face to face. They did not understand patient, invisible death that came from miles away. In Montana, Amy Watson was discovering another alien weakness. She had been watching their mountain base for a week, learning their routines. The aliens were creatures of habit. They did the same things at the same times every day. Amy set up her rifle on a ridge overlooking the base. She had a clear view of the landing pad where alien aircraft came and went. More importantly, she could see the command building where the officers held their meetings. At exactly 10 o'clock every morning, the alien base commander came outside to inspect his troops. He always followed the same route, always stopped at the same places. Amy had been watching him for 7 days, waiting for the perfect shot. On the 8th day, she was ready. The range was 1,400 yards, at the very limit of her rifles. Accuracy. There was a slight wind from the north, and she had to account for the altitude. Amy had made this calculation 100 times in her head. The alien commander appeared on schedule. He walked to the center of the parade ground and stopped to address his troops. Amy controlled her breathing and squeezed the trigger slowly. Bullet took 3 seconds to reach its target. The alien commander collapsed in front of his entire army. Panic spread through the base as aliens ran for cover. Amy was already moving to her escape route when the first energy blasts lit up the mountain. She made it back to her truck and drove away, while the aliens were still searching the wrong hillside. By the time they organized a proper search, she was 50 miles away. General Krickstall received the report about his base commander's death while he was eating his morning meal. He threw his food across the room in rage. In 3 weeks, he had lost 47 officers to invisible human snipers. His invasion was stalled, and his troops were afraid to leave their bases. How many of these snipers are there? He demanded. His intelligence officer looked exhausted. "We estimate between 200 and 500, sir. But the number keeps growing. More humans are joining them every day. What about our countermeasures? We have deployed thermal sensors and reconnaissance drones, but the humans are very good at hiding. They know their own planet better than we do. They use weather, terrain, and even our own equipment against us." Krickstall studied the latest casualty reports. His forces were winning the big battles, but losing the war. Every day, more of his officers died. Every day, his troops became more afraid to fight. "Sir," his intelligence officer continued, "perhaps we should consider negotiating with the humans." "Negotiate?" Krickstall's voice was full of anger. "We are the Zephyrian Empire. We do not negotiate with primitives." "But, sir, these humans are not fighting like primitives. They are using tactics we have never encountered. They are patient, precise, and completely ruthless. Our standard military doctrine has no answer for this kind of warfare." Krickstall was quiet for a long moment. In his home system, wars were fought with massive armies meeting on open battlefields. The side with better technology and more soldiers usually won. But Earth was different. The humans were turning the entire planet into a battlefield where his technological advantage meant nothing. "Double the guard around all officers," he finally ordered. "No one goes anywhere without heavy escort." "Yes, sir." As his intelligence officer left, Krikstal returned to his maps. Red dots marked every sniper attack. They covered the entire continent like a disease. Somewhere down on the planet, human snipers were hunting his army with the patience of predators. For the first time since the invasion began, General Krikstal began to wonder if he could win this war. 6 months after the invasion began, General Krikstal stood in his command center and stared at reports that made no sense. His army was trapped. 3 million Zephyrian soldiers sat in fortified bases across Earth, afraid to venture outside. The humans had not won a single major battle, but they were winning the war. "Sir," his intelligence officer reported, "we have lost another supply convoy. The humans hid it outside Denver. Same tactics as always. Long-range precision shooting. No survivors." Krikstal crumpled the report in his hands. "How many officers this time?" 12, sir. Including Colonel Vextar." Krikstal closed his eyes. Vextar had been one of his best commanders. Now he was dead, killed by an invisible enemy from an impossible distance. The humans had perfected their hunting techniques. They knew exactly when and where to strike. "Sir, we have a bigger problem. The troops are refusing to leave the bases. They know that any patrol means death for the officers. Morale is at the breaking point. What about the evacuation plan?" "Ready when you give the order, sir. But the humans are watching our spaceports. They will target any evacuation convoy." Krikstal nodded slowly. He had already decided the invasion was over. But first, he had to get his people home alive. And that meant dealing with the human snipers one final time. Jake Morrison lay on a rooftop in downtown Los Angeles, watching the alien command center through his scope. For 3 days, he had been studying the building where the alien commanders held their meetings. Today, intelligence reports said General Krikstal himself would be there. Lisa Grant checked her equipment one more time. Multiple targets confirmed. "I count at least 20 high-value aliens in that building." Jake nodded. This was the biggest operation yet. Sniper teams from across the country had coordinated their attacks for this moment. While he targeted the Los Angeles Command Center, Carlos Rivera was watching the alien headquarters in Texas. And Amy Watson was positioned outside their main base in Montana. "Lisa, what is the range to the main conference room?" 1,800 yards. Wind is steady from the west. Jake had never attempted a shot at this distance before, but his rifle was capable, and he had spent weeks preparing. One shot at the alien general could end this war. At exactly noon, the alien leaders gathered in the conference room. Jake could see them through the large windows, dark shapes moving around a table. General Krikstal was easy to identify. He was taller than the others and wore different armor. Jake controlled his breathing and placed his crosshairs on the alien general's chest. The shot would have to be perfect. At this range, there was no second chance. He squeezed the trigger. Slowly, the rifle kicked hard against his shoulder. Through the scope, he watched the .50 caliber bullet cross the distance in just over 2 seconds. It struck the window and shattered the reinforced glass. General Krikstal spun around and fell to the floor. The other aliens in the room dove for cover. Some were injured by flying glass. Others ran for the exits. Jake worked the bolt and loaded another round, but his primary target was down. "Confirmed hit," Lisa reported. "The general is not moving." Similar reports came over the radio from other sniper teams. Carlos Rivera had eliminated 3 alien colonels in Texas. Amy Watson had killed the alien Air Force commander in Montana. Across the country, the coordinated attacks were devastating the alien leadership, But Jake's celebration was short-lived. The building he had targeted was now swarming with alien soldiers. Energy weapons were firing in all directions, searching for the sniper who had killed their general. "Time to go," Jake said. He and Lisa packed their equipment quickly and headed for the stairs. They had planned multiple escape routes, but the aliens were reacting faster than expected. They made it to the street level when the first alien patrol found their building. Energy blasts lit up the stairwell behind them. Jake and Lisa ran through the empty streets, using abandoned cars and debris for cover. There, Lisa pointed to a subway entrance. Underground. They disappeared into the tunnels just as more alien soldiers arrived. The aliens searched the building thoroughly, but their targets were already gone. 3 hours later, Jake and Lisa emerged from the subway system 10 miles away. They found a safe house and turned on their radio. The news was better than they had hoped. "This is command to all sniper teams. Mission accomplished. Enemy leadership is eliminated. Repeat, enemy leadership is eliminated." Jake smiled. General Krikstal was dead. The alien invasion force was without its commanding officer. But the war was not over yet. On the Zephyrian command ship, chaos reigned. With General Krikstal dead, no one knew who was in command. The alien officers argued among themselves about what to do next. Some wanted to continue fighting. Others demanded immediate evacuation. Colonel Kriksmal, the senior surviving officer, finally took control. He was a logistics specialist, not a combat commander, but he understood the situation clearly. The invasion had failed. The humans had won. "All units, prepare for immediate evacuation," he ordered. "We are abandoning this planet." "Sir," his communications officer protested, "the Emperor will not approve retreat." "The Emperor is not here facing invisible death from the sky," Kriksmal replied. "I would rather explain a tactical withdrawal than try to explain how we lost." An entire army. The evacuation began within hours. Alien ships descended from orbit to pick up the stranded ground forces. But the humans were watching. Sniper teams positioned themselves around every spaceport and landing zone. Jake Morrison set up his rifle on a hill overlooking the main alien evacuation site. Hundreds of aliens were boarding transport ships, carrying their wounded and equipment. It would have been easy to shoot them, but Jake had received specific orders. "Let them go," came the command over his radio. "But make sure they remember us." Jake aimed at the ground near the alien ships and fired. The bullet struck the concrete and sent fragments flying. The aliens jumped and looked around fearfully. Jake fired again, this time closer to the ships. The message was clear. The humans could kill them any time they wanted, but they were choosing to let them live. The aliens loaded their ships faster and took off without looking back. Carlos Rivera did the same thing in Texas. Amy Watson repeated the performance in Montana. Across the country, human snipers sent the same message to the retreating aliens. "You are leaving because we allow it." The last alien ship left Earth's atmosphere 72 hours after General Krikstal's death. The invasion was over. Humanity had won. Jake Morrison stood on the same hill where he had first engaged the aliens 6 months earlier. Lisa Grant was beside him, watching the final alien ship disappear into the stars. "Think they will come back?" Lisa asked. Jake shook his head. "No. They will tell stories about Earth to other alien species. Stories about invisible human warriors who can kill from beyond the horizon. No one will want to invade a planet full of snipers." He was right. Within a year, Earth's reputation had spread across the galaxy. The planet where patient, precise humans hunted alien armies from impossible distances. Where invisible death waited for any invader foolish enough to land. The alien generals who had ignored Earth's snipers were dead. The survivors carried a warning to the stars. Never underestimate the humans who fight from the shadows.